The gate had been smashed. Again, I didn't even have time for coffee when I saw the deep tire tracks carved across my ranch driveway. HOA Karen, smug, red-haired, sunglasses at dawn, clipboard clutched like a weapon. She thought she could bulldoze through my property like it was a public shortcut. I stepped outside. My shotgun leaned against the porch, not loaded, but she didn't know that. The morning air smelled of dust and diesel. Every crushed plank, every dent in the gate, every fake fine. They all whispered the same truth. She was testing me. Not again. I growled, letting my eyes sweep the damage. "You need to move your vehicles, sir," Karen said, waving her clipboard like a badge of authority, her tone sharp, smug. "I own this land," I replied, voice calm but sharp. "Your excuses don't get you past my gate. Not today, not ever." Her laugh cut through the dawn, cruel and brittle. "Community easement. You can't stop us. I've called the cops before. You can't intimidate me." I didn't flinch. Instead, I smiled, slowly. Every bolt she broke, every sign she ignored, every threat she made. It all led to this. "Then I guess you'll need to call them again," I said. My voice was low, deliberate, full of the quiet fury that had been building for months. The wind shifted. Dust rose from the driveway. Sparks of sunlight reflected off the steel bolts she had ripped apart. She finally realized my words weren't empty threats. This time, the law wasn't on her side. The trap I had built, steel, concrete, and undeniable proof, was waiting silently behind the next gate, and when she drove through again, she would finally learn that trespassing on my land had consequences she could never forget. She didn't see it yet, but her arrogance had blinded her. Soon, every move she made would play right into my plan. The morning sun barely pierced through the fog as I walked my ranch, documenting every inch of destruction. The tires had gouged deep tracks into the gravel driveway. Boards from my gate lay scattered, splintered, and ruined. I crouched to take photographs, zooming in on each crack, each dent, every scratch left by HOA Karen's arrogance. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, their whispers carried on the breeze. Some were sympathetic, some fearful, but a few gave me subtle nods of encouragement. I pulled out old emails, notices, and receipts, every bogus fine Karen and her board had filed. Every claim of community easement was a lie documented in black and white. I taped the documents to a board in my garage, stacking them high, a visual mountain of proof. My camera caught footprints in the mud leading from the road to my yard, her repeated trespasses frozen in time. Each photo, each note, each evidence piece wasn't just a record, it was ammunition. I knew that arrogance thrives in ignorance. Now ignorance had run out. This wasn't just a ranch. This was a battlefield, and preparation was my weapon. I left the garage with my binder under my arm, the smell of dust and freshly disturbed gravel thick in the air, a silent warning to anyone who thought they could cross me again. I knew evidence alone wouldn't stop them. I needed authority on my side. I called the local sheriff's office, explaining the repeated trespassing, property destruction, and fake fines. Within the hour, a sheriff's deputy arrived in a black SUV, notebook in hand, scanning the driveway. "Sir, we've received complaints before," he said, eyes narrowing as he studied the tire tracks. "This looks intentional. Let's document everything properly." I walked him through the driveway, showing every dented plank, every scrape of steel against wood, every shadow of destruction. He pulled out his camera and began snapping photos, making notes, asking precise questions. From the corner of my eye, I saw Karen across the street, sunglasses reflecting the sun, her clipboard trembling ever so slightly. She had thought the law was distant, abstract. Now it was alive, breathing, observing. I handed over copies of my evidence binder. The deputy leafed through it, eyebrows raised. "This is serious. We can file a formal complaint and keep a record of your repeated claims." A small thrill ran through me. Finally, the arrogance that had gone unchecked was facing boundaries stronger than it had ever imagined. Late afternoon, she returned, driving down the driveway like she owned the place. "Move your vehicles." She barked, clipboard raised as if it were a sword. I stepped to the middle of the driveway, chest out, standing my ground. "I warned you, one more time, and there will be consequences you won't like." Her driver shifted nervously. "It's just a road. Don't be dramatic," he muttered. "Not just a road," I said, voice low, deliberate. "Respect property, lines you don't cross." Her laugh was sharp but faltering, a brittle sound in the late sun. Dust swirled around her polished shoes as she braked slightly. I saw her glance at my camera perched on the porch, recording. Her smugness faltered. She hadn't expected documentation. The tension was thick, like the air before a storm. Neighbors peeked from windows and porches, some filming discreetly, others just watching, silent witnesses to the stand-off. Her voice wavered for the first time. "Community easement, you can't stop me. I've called the cops before." "Then call them again," I said calmly, letting my eyes fix on hers. "But next time, the evidence will speak louder than words." Weeks of quiet preparation had led to this. Beneath the surface of the driveway, steel beams had been buried, reinforced with concrete. The new section of the gate, hidden from view, was engineered to stop any vehicle attempting to bulldoze through. Cameras silently recorded every approach, every inch of the property. I double-checked every bolt, every hinge, every sensor I had placed. Nothing was left to chance. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, preparation, and proving a point that arrogance alone cannot survive scrutiny. The ranch seemed quiet, peaceful, but under the surface a storm waited. I could hear the faint rumble of tires approaching from the road, a sound I had waited months to hear. The trap was perfect. The moment of reckoning was almost here. She came barreling down the driveway, sunglasses gleaming, laughing as if she owned the world. I stepped into the middle of the path, arms relaxed but firm. "Not today," I said, voice low and deliberate. Her tires kicked up dirt as she slowed slightly, disbelief in her eyes. "Move, I have rights," she began, but I cut her off. "Rights," I said. "Try this on your way through." I pointed toward the reinforced gate. For the first time her arrogance faltered. The wind picked up, dust swirling, sunlight catching the steel bolts. I could see her brain processing the invisible trap she had ignored so many times before. The police, notified earlier, arrived discreetly, blocking any escape if she tried to force her way through. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. Sweat beaded her forehead. Every neighbor held their breath. This confrontation was electric, tense, and unavoidable. Officers approached her vehicle with calm authority. "You have repeatedly trespassed and ignored warnings." One said firmly, "We have everything documented." Karen's face went pale behind the wheel. This is unfair. The law isn't about fairness." I said, stepping aside, "It's about boundaries. Yours ended long ago." Her driver fidgeted, looking around nervously. Statements were taken, photos reviewed, evidence filed. The sheriff's deputy's hand hovered over the citation pad. Further violations could lead to arrest. Her car reversed slowly, each inch a lesson learned the hard way. Neighbors clapped softly, relief and silent satisfaction in their eyes. For once, arrogance met accountability, and it could not escape. The reinforced gate now stood firm, untouched, triumphant. Cameras captured every approach, hesitation, and failed attempt. Karen's visits stopped. The bogus fines vanished. Threats disappeared. I walked the driveway at sunset, golden light glinting off steel and concrete. Neighbors came by quietly, patting my back, nodding in respect. Some whispered thanks, some just smiled, knowing the line had been drawn. The ranch was mine. The gate was mine. The law, my ally, was mine. And the lesson lingered, silent, undeniable, powerful. Respect, preparation, and boundaries triumph over arrogance. Some lines are not meant to be crossed, and now everyone knew it.